973-4828 so that she can schedule accordingly. Now, it would be good if you know that you've not engaged before, that on that first session, July the 6th, you're participating. Because who knows what's going to come after that. You want to get on the front end. And the reason for that is that you may miss something, or if there's another meeting subsequent to that, or whenever that is, that's going to incent you to want to be at that meeting. Get the information. The information is very, very powerful. So, what I'd like to do is, before we call up the panel here, so you can ask questions, I want to cover a couple of other quick things. Going forward with our next outreach, okay, it's going to be in July. It's the fourth Tuesday in July. This will be our last outreach. We talked about when we first began this entire process that we would go through a series of outreaches, and then we would have a summarized. And that summarized event is going to be the fourth Tuesday, in which we're going to go back to the very beginning when we started, and we're just going to give excerpts from all of those up to this point when we talked about how to do business at DFW Airport, when we talked about becoming certified, when we had the NCTRCA here to their representatives and whatever. We're going to have them back here. So if you've missed the previous outreach sessions, this is your opportunity to bring everything together, because we're going to give it in its full fashion that you need to get. Also, as we've shared continuously today, you have access to the websites that will provide you all of the presentations that have been presented, that will provide you video, that will provide you from our last session when we had, some of you remember we had the primes that were here, persons that had signed up saying that they wanted to create joint ventures, or they wanted to support joint ventures, whichever the case may be. As of today, we've listed that on that website. So you can go and you can see the list of if it's a major corporation that's a national corporation that says that they're interested in participating at DFW and they'd like to have a joint venture, they're listed. Or if you said that you're looking for an opportunity to be in a joint venture, you're listed. So we just want to provide the necessary information that will allow you to collaborate effectively with some of the companies that are available. Also, I'd like to talk about the fact that, we've heard a lot of conversations around the globe about RFP processes and with different airports and what have you. We want this to be one of the greatest experiences that an airport can deliver. Honestly speaking, that's one of our goals. We want to set the benchmark for others to follow. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that the only way that could happen, that can happen, is that you have a dedicated and a passionate and exciting and talented team that's very, very professional and very, very committed. And I don't want to be remiss in not acknowledging the DFW Airport Concessions Department, the Marketing Department, the Procurement Department, the BDD Department, there's Business Diversity Development Department, BDD Department, if you will. I always have to say this, excuse me. But if you will, all of the departments combined have worked, with the utmost of intent to deliver all of these outreach sessions. But when the outreach sessions stop, and come August and September, when we release this RFP, that's when our work really begins. So if you would, I'd like for all of the managers, all of those persons that have been involved in the outreaches over the last, since the inception, please stand up. This is our team, please. Let's give them a round of applause. Please. Okay. On that note, I'd like to ask, and thank you very much for that, I'd like to ask for all of the panelists come up real quick. And it's about 4:15. And let's take maybe a few minutes here And let's allow you to ask those questions that you may have that are lingering. You've questioned as to whether or not you should ask the question. Ask the question, okay? Okay? Let everyone come on up. And Mr. Sewell and Mr. Lemons, you guys may want to come up also. And that's Ms. Carolyn Phillips, who is our outreach manager and coordinator. So let me give it up.
What we're going to do is I'm going to be Vanna, and I'm going to run around and put the microphone in your face where we can get those questions on film, and the panel will answer those questions. And if you would please, when you ask your question, ask it very clearly and concisely where we can make sure that we get your answer correctly.
My question is, when you said 3 years of experience, is that 3 consecutive years in the last number of years, or is it 3 years of their lifetime?
I believe in past RFPs, it's been 3 out of the last 5 years. So it wasn't necessarily spelled out as being 3 consecutive years. I'm assuming that we'll probably have something similar specified in this one. I don't know that's been solidified yet, but that's what I would anticipate.
I have 2 construction questions. It appeared quickly when I looked through the timeline. The permitting process, is that an airport-owned permitting authority, or do we also have to involve the city or county for both health and building?
Just to get it on microphone, yes, it is operated through the airport. Kevin is shaking his head yes, and I believe him.
And as far as construction and our contractors, are they required to be union?
Are they required what?
To be union?
The answer is no.
Two questions. One, another clarification of the 3 years experience. Is the experience directly, concession and airport related, or say, for example, if I manufacture a food product that's sold in grocery stores, but then I want to sell that in a concession environment, does that experience count?
The answer is it's 3 years of relevant experience. So if, and I think this question came up a couple of times, if you're proposing on a package that's specific to, let's say, a sandwich concept, like a Quiznos or a Subway would qualify for, and your background is in dentistry, then there's not a match there. But if your background is in food operations, that we could argue that is a relevant experience background, then that's how we would assess it.
So does this request for proposal cover concepts that can be serviced from a smaller kiosk or cart versus a large, retail space build out?
What we are going to be working on first is the inline locations for the request for proposal, and then we will be doing fill-in as needed with kiosks and carts. But for the purposes of these workshops, it's for inline spaces.
An operations question. Can you speak towards, is there a dock, a commissary, how and who receives deliveries, and does that person need a SIDA badge to access?
Oh, what I would give for a dock. Terminal D has a dock, kind of like you would see at a grocery store where big trucks can back up to it and make deliveries. That is our aspiration to do that in the older terminals that are going through this terminal development plan, but we're not 100% solidified on that yet. So in the interim, if things proceed as they are now, product is delivered 3 different ways. It's delivered either through what's called the AOA, the aircraft operation area, which is not the ideal scenario because then you're competing with aircraft, and nobody wants to do that, including the airlines don't want you to be doing that, but it is there, and operators, suppliers who do that have to have $10 million in liability insurance, so it's a big challenge, it's a big issue. The second way is through TSA checkpoints. So in that situation, you're